Here we are, Tri-City Sports Now. I'm already getting positive feedback on Facebook. It is from my friend who once said that Tanya Harding was the Alyssa Silverstone and Tanya Harding, most beautiful women, this circa 1990 something, and that's what his comment was. And I was so he started the show off talking a little bit. I saw I, Tanya over the weekend, and was really, I've got to put this down. So that was sort of our second movie review. I did my movie review on Solo. They really do a lot of movie reviews on outsider characters. Han Solo and Tanya Harding. There you go. There's a match made in heaven, okay? It would have been better than Jeff Galooly. I'll just tell you that much right there. Anyway, Tri-City Sports Now. In this hour, we'll go back and I'll listen that sports update, talk a little bit about the transfer. We have already, but the Vols are bringing him, and they're bringing him a 7-footer, ought to help him on a boards, but not all 7-footers are created equal. And as we saw last year with ETSU, sometimes the 7-footers don't even play ahead of the 6'10" players, who then transfer to Boise State. Some stories that I had yesterday that I wanted to get to and begin with, and I was talking about this, I actually put this up on my own Facebook as well, if you missed it. But U.S. News and World Report, they like to rank things. U.S. News and World Report enjoys making lists. That's what journalism has become these days, list making. Sorry, and sometimes it's done quite well. allfortennessee.com, you know that I talk about its journalistic, it was when Caleb Calhoun is writing. I'm less than enthused about Billy Wilford. I kind of think he's a fanboy, but that's why I have Caleb on. Anyway, Caleb Calhoun of allfortennessee.com, he talks to me a lot, and when we talk about the Vols every Tuesday at 12:30, and it's the time of the year where he starts writing a lot of list pieces. And I'm very proud to be mentioned in one of those list pieces in days of yore. He was going with the 10 most underrated football players to ever play for Tennessee. And I said, what about Chris White, who was so underrated, he didn't even know who he was. Chris White from Cleveland, Tennessee, led the Vols in interceptions in 1985. He led the Vols, he also led the nation in interceptions in 1985. I had not moved to Tennessee in 1985. I remember wanting the Steelers to get Chris White, the nation's leading interceptor, to bolster their secondary. Take them a year, they got Rod Woodson. Things turned out okay, but, they needed, Harvey Clayton wasn't getting a job done. All right, there you go. Duck comes down. You get $100 because we all know that you would have bet good money that there would not have been a Harvey Clayton reference on this show today. All right, so there we go. But anyway, U.S. News and World Report enjoys making lists, as does, and as I said, with allfortennessee.com, they do it very well. And one of the reasons why they listen to me, and then Chris White becomes, with, a plug for me, the 5th greatest interceptor, or the 5th most underrated Tennessee Volunteer in history. All right, so here we go. What is the best state in the country to live in? Is this what it is? Okay. Or what is the best state in the country? U.S. News and World Report has they've analyzed, all right? And what they do is that they factor in health care. Do the doctors have bones through their nose? Education. Does it stop after the 8th grade? All this sort of stuff. Now, healthcare, education, economy. Is there any money around here? Infrastructure. Opportunity. There's interesting. Financial stability, crime and corrections. A natural environment to create its annual list of the best and worst states in the country. What is the best state in the country? I thought this would be an interesting switch here. The best state in the country is, by the way, with a GDP, a gross product of $524 billion. I think Bill Gates lives here. Washington. First in war, first in peace. And if we're talking about not the city, but the state, first in the U.S. News and World Report rankings. Now, I always, used to be first in war, first in peace, and last in the American League was Washington. I decided to change that a few years ago to Washington, first in war, first in peace, and second to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And then Alexander Ovechkin had to go out and win the Stanley Cup. So, regardless, Washington State, not Washington, D.C., where Micah Kazor, pitching for the Bucks today at 4 p.m. against UNCG, is from. But rather Washington State, where, who's from Washington State? Frazier. Like to come up with somebody other than that, but, Gonzaga is in Washington State, right? I guess I mentioned Bill Gates is from, Kurt Cobain was from Washington. I don't like it already. All right. But yeah, the man who ruined rock. Anyway, Washington, they say, because the state's uninsured rate is roughly 9%, which is well below the national average of 14%. That's pretty good. All right. So I guess they aren't like Ned Flanders and think that insurance is a form of gambling. The average household income is $71,000 in Washington. What are we doing around here, schlubbing around here? That's more than $10,000 more than a national average. Wealth in Washington. I'm going to Olympia tomorrow. I know a lot of my detractors would say, yeah, go. Don't let the door hit you on the... Yeah. Actually, I'm not. I like hosting Tri-City Sports Now here. But so that leads us to, ask, what's the worst state in the country? It's not Tennessee, is it? No, it isn't. Louisiana. I've lived in Louisiana. They obviously did not factor in food in these equations, okay? I like Louisiana. I did. I was the voice of the Alexandria, Louisiana Aces. And for a short period of time, because the team only lasted for a short period of time, but I liked Louisiana. It's the food. Boy, there's probably no state better known for food in this, well, obviously states are in this country. There is no state more known for food than the Pelican State, than Louisiana. Oh, it is delicious. And it takes a long time to cook, so you get good and hungry. And then you just your boudin balls more. Just shrimp Creole and all that. You just can't get enough of it. It's good going in, it's bad going out. I'll give you that. It's bad going out, okay? But, the Tennessee digestive system has to go and wait on that and all this. They also, I will say this, and because it's the success Louisiana State has had over the years, I've never seen a state more into college baseball than Louisiana. You can believe that. LSU Tigers, that's a big deal down there in baseball season. Anyway, the GDP is half of what Washington is. That would explain why it's 50. Just 30% of the population has received a college education, and the job growth sits at 0.2%. Now we start to understand why the Aces didn't make it. That's below the 1.2 national average of job growth. The obesity rate is 36%. This being said, I tend to remember very beautiful women who weren't chunky in Louisiana. Now, Tennesseans should get and take some perverse pride here. Alabama is the second worst state. Medium income there is just $26,500. Actually, it's a little short of that, but I'm rounding it. Average debt in graduation, uninsured adults, obesity, preventable hospital admissions, poverty, and incarceration, all real high in the Yellowjammer state. So that's 49th. Number 2, by the way, is New Hampshire, which, by the way, yeah, live free or die. That sounds, pretty good motto right there. They've lost the man in the mountain in New Hampshire, but hey, if you can get around by not having big league teams, or if you live in southern New Hampshire and you say, we're not that far from Boston and they win all the time, and you like having a legislator that lives right next to you, because in New Hampshire there are 401 members of the state house in New Hampshire, I think. It's just, every block has a state legislator. If you can do all that, it's not that far to go to the, to the Capitol there in Concord, no matter where you live. That's number 2. I know. Where do the local states fit in? 30th for Tennessee, which you can kind of see the pay is low, you can see the poverty and, for a lot of these reasons and all that. We just got our first hospital, 3 years ago, and before that we discovered fire or so, I suppose. But, yeah. Now, for our North Carolina listeners, you're 18th. Virginia is number 7. Yeah, I'm a little surprised on that, but, yeah, we do think of Virginia around here as coal mining country, not necessarily Richmond, Tidewater area, although a lot of people move away from the Tidewater area, or the sainted Northern Virginia suburbs and the cultural divide it has with the rest of the state. The Old Dominion. Dated a woman from Virginia. She was very proud to be from there. I'll tell you this. Other thing, I was a little surprised South Carolina is 42nd, because that's a vacation area, but all this. Let's see here. So the border state, Tennessee, is 30th. I mentioned that I have lived in a lot of different places in this country, and the highest ranking that any of the places that I lived in terms of the state came out was Florida, which is 13th. And you're kind of surprised that Florida is down that low, and all this. But consider healthcare, education, economy, infrastructure, opportunity, fiscal stability, crime, and corrections, thus meaning incarceration, how many people are in jail and all that. Then again, we want to get tough on crime and imprison you, and that's a bad thing. I'm not necessarily sure that makes the rankings that legitimate. So, okay. Tennessee, number 30. Got to work on that. Start paying people more. I know how to do it. Advertise on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. I'm dead serious. We're bringing in new sponsors. Prosperity just around the corner. We're going to get up those U.S. News and World Report rankings of the last thing we do.